While many of Europe's biggest league campaigns seem to have been wrapped up long before they've drawn to a technical conclusion, in Scotland it seems as though it's going to go right down to the wire. We are just about to start the post-league split, which for anyone who doesn't follow Scottish football means the top half and the bottom half of the Scottish Premiership play a round-robin competition. And for anyone who's not been keeping in touch with Scottish football, they might be surprised to see that Hearts of Midlothian are top of the table. They've spent much of this season top of the table, and as such, I've asked Ewan from our UK team to join us once again on the show to break down why Hearts are top of the table and if they can actually go on and become the first non-Glasgow team to win the Scottish Premiership since 1985. Ewan, this is quite an intriguing, it's a fascinating story. It's obviously got a lot of people outside of Scotland intrigued as to what's going on here. So maybe just to get things started, for anyone who hasn't been paying attention to Scottish football and maybe just clocking what's happening now, what's happened over the last 8 or 10 months, or longer if you want, to explain why Hearts have managed to leapfrog both Celtic and Rangers in the league?
Yeah, it's a combination of two main factors. One being Hearts' excellence this season, and secondly, the old firm Rangers and Celtic have both struggled at various points of the season, and they've been, especially Celtic, have been way below the standard that they've set over, they won, it's like 12 of the last 13 titles. They are the dominant force in Scottish football, and they've been miles from their best. They've had, 3 managers this season. They've had Martin O'Neill come in and out, but to look at Hearts, they've had the investment from Tony Bloom, who obviously owns Brighton, but perhaps for a more kind of relevant comparison, they owns Union Saint-Gilloise in Belgium, who've done remarkable things there. He came in the summer. He's gave the Jamestown Analytics, which is famous analytics company, so which should be predominantly used for recruitment. And it's coincided. They've had this incredible rise this season. They've been top of the league for the vast majority of the season, and with 5 games to go, they sit top, and it's all to play for. But yeah, there's various factors why Hearts have been successful. Derek McKinnes has came in as manager, someone who's got a really strong pedigree in the Scottish Premiership with, Aberdeen and Kilmarnock. He's brought a real resilience. They're difficult to beat. Their home record is phenomenal. They're the only team in the Scottish Premiership who haven't lost at home this season in the league. That's been the bedrock of their success is their home form, and it'll be crucial over the coming weeks. And they've signed a couple of players who have came in and been real stars. So yeah, it's a fascinating title race. They've got 3 teams going for it, with 5 games remaining, and they obviously all play each other because of the split. So it's going to be a fascinating end to the season.
Yeah, let's just kind of narrow in on that for a moment, because you touched on Tony Bloom, who invested over €10 million in the club in the summer of 2025, made a statement at the time, more or less saying in as many words that he wants to knock Celtic and Rangers off the perch, really have a good stab at kind of breaking up the orthodoxy of Scottish football. And people outside of Scottish football might be thinking, wow, he's already working his wonders. He did this with Brighton. It only took him 8 months, less than a season, to kind of push Hearts to the top of the table. But there's more to it than that, Ewan, isn't there? This isn't just a Hearts team full of wonder kids from, Romania or Belgium or whatever else. It's a mismatch of young players and new players who we will touch on, but also some pretty established Scottish Premiership players, either Scottish themselves or players with experience. And as you said, a head coach in Derek McKinnes, who obviously knows his way around the Scottish Premiership very well. And during his time at Aberdeen, when obviously Rangers weren't in the Scottish Premiership, were comfortably the second best team in Scotland.
Yeah, completely. From the outside, it looks, Tony Bloom's came in with this analytic system, and people look at what he's done at Brighton and how they had this remarkable success of, unearthing these players from around the world, bringing them in, developing them, and then selling them on for big money. But it's so soon into Tony Bloom's tenure at Hearts that kind of model of flipping players hasn't really came into force yet. In terms of the record signing, was a guy called Aguirre he's a Brazilian midfielder. He's barely played this season because he's injured. He was a record signing at like around about €2 million. So that was the kind of one player maybe who'd fit the Brighton model the most in terms of being a kind of younger talent. I think he's 24 currently, but yeah, if you look at Claudio Braga, they've picked him up from a second division in Europe, and he's came in and been their star player this season. Kizidaris they're the big two signs who came in, really made a huge impact. He's a winger. His form's fallen off a little bit this season. Recently, but their market values have both risen tremendously. And they've got the goalkeeper who's came in, and he's like 33 years old. And those are the three signs who came in and been guaranteed first team crucial players from that kind of Bloom model. Then you've got someone like Stuart Finlay, who Derek McKinnes knows from Kilmarnock. He's brought him in, nothing to do with the model. In fact, McKinnes specifically had to go and say, I want this guy. I back me with this guy. I think he'll do the job. And he showed up well in their system. They put players through and they come back with results. So yeah, it's been a real mixture of that. And it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward with what Hearts do in the transfer market, because you'd think if you look at Union Joie, you look at Brighton, that's the model, and bringing in young players and flipping them. And it's not really had that so far. Also, the Scottish Premiership is a league. It's very unique in terms of the profile of the game and the requirements of players. So you do need to have these kind of experienced heads who know what they're doing to be able to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. So you could certainly argue that the Tony Bloom kind of style of things here hasn't even got started, and it'll be really intriguing to see, as you say, Ewan, what they'll do in the summer, regardless of how this season kind of concludes, and how they kind of continue to move towards a more kind of Bloom-esque transfer model. But in the meantime, they've had some remarkable success off the pitch as well as on it in terms of the market values of the players in the club in general. 59% rise in the squad market value this season, which is the second highest in the Scottish Premiership. I think only Falkirk have technically higher in terms of percentage-wise, but they obviously have a much smaller squad. Second only to Celtic and Rangers in terms of real-time value in that squad value increase. 2 of the top 10 biggest market value gains for players are Hearts players as well, as you mentioned, Kizidaris and Braga. But just kind of narrowing in on what still has to be done on the pitch. And for anyone, again, who doesn't really follow how Scottish Premiership works, Hearts now have to play every team in the top half of the table, which quite a daunting task. They play Hibs away this weekend, which is obviously the Edinburgh Derby. They then have Rangers at home. Then they play Motherwell and Falkirk, and then they finish the season with Celtic away in East End of Glasgow. So based on how they've done on the pitch, Ewan, irrespective of how impressive they've been off the pitch in terms of transfers, scouting, McKinnes' management, how do you see them navigating these games, these must-win games, if they are going to go on and win the title?
Yeah, there's no real room for error at this stage, because it's, like you said, it's so fascinating. Every team plays each other, and Rangers, Celtic and Hearts all have the same fixtures, just albeit different orders and different venues, home and away. So you mentioned there the game at the weekend, absolutely massive. I mean, every game's massive. It's such a cliche, but going to Hibs, their rivals, with a title on the line, Hibs are going to be so motivated for that game because they won't want Hearts to win the league. And then they've got Rangers. The next 2 games are crucial. If Hearts get 2 bad results, they could be out of it by then. And the thing is, Rangers started the season terribly, but since Danny Rowe came in, they've been their record's excellent in terms of points. They've got 10 more points than any other team in the league since Rowe came in, and they're really on a roll. I didn't want to say that, but I just did. They look like a team with momentum. They're really playing well. They won 6-3 at the weekend, scoring 6 goals away from home at Falkirk. Celtic they're not been convincing at all this season, especially recently, but they keep edging out results. And in terms of the fixture list, they have the more favourable fixtures because they play Hearts and Rangers at home. So that's a huge advantage for Celtic. So yeah, it's poised to be an incredible season, end to the season. I think Hearts, if they could do it, it'd be one of the biggest stories in British football for a long, long time. If I was betting on it, I don't think they will get over the line. I just think that when nerves kick in and things like that, it'll be very difficult. But for Scottish football and for a story, I hope they go over the line.
Yeah, just on that, in terms of both of our lifetimes, I was just thinking there, I think the only kind of British football story to rival it would maybe be Leicester City winning the Premier League. We're talking that kind of upset, aren't we?
Yeah, completely. It's been over 40 years since anyone done it, so nobody at the start of the season would have tipped Hearts to win the league. It's a truly remarkable story. It isn't on that kind of Leicester level of shock. And for that, for Scottish football, it would be incredible if they managed to do it. It's going to be tough. It's. I think we've got a lot of players who haven't really experienced, winning things as well, and I think it'll be very difficult for them to get over the line. But like I said, I hope they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a lot going to be happening in the next 5 weeks in the Scottish Premiership for sure, and we'll definitely be having Ewan back on the show, regardless of whether Hearts do or don't win the league title, because as we said, that kind of operation under Tony Bloom's only just getting started at Tynecastle. But for now, Ewan, I'll let you go, and hopefully we'll see a dramatic end to the season and have plenty to talk about over the course of the summer. So thanks again for joining us on the show.